again and welcome to the Memoir channel. My name is Nikki Smart and today I'm going to be speaking with Jackie Lambert about her memoir, Adventure Caravanning with Dogs. It's year one, fur babies in France, and the other little bit it says in the title is From Wage Slaves to Living the Dream. So Jackie has been traveling around for several years now in a caravan with 4 dogs and a husband. So let's go speak to her and find out a little bit more about how all of that is going for her. Hi, Jackie, and welcome to the Memoir channel.
Hi, thank you very much indeed. It's a pleasure to be here.
I like your background. I like that I have the green and I'm sort of matching with you today.
You rather match our decor, don't you? We're here in our self-built truck, which is a 6x4 wheel truck
And
that we converted ourselves for our overland adventures. And we kind of went for an underwater look inside. So we like a bit of colour, as you can perhaps tell.
I like it. And where are you parked? Where are you parked at this moment in time?
At this moment in
Oh,
time, we're
hello, Mark.
in. Oh, sorry, that's Mark, my husband, in the back. He's tasked with the job of keeping our 4 little dogs quiet because it's not very pleasant outside. He was going to take them for a walk, but yeah, although they're poodles, which means puddle hound, they're not very keen on walking in the rain.
In the rain.
So yeah, so they're in here, and he's tasked with keeping them silent.
And
So.
I know you're in England somewhere right now, right?
That's right. At the moment, we're in Bournemouth, which is kind of our hometown. We have friends here, and our home, which we actually rent out to fund our travelling, is here. So we usually spend a little bit of time when we're back in the UK, sort of visiting.
Well, I mean, I read that. I liked how you expressed it as a new life experience. Instead of a near-death experience, it was the new life experience.
Exactly.
After you
Yes.
went the White River rafting in on the Zambezi, which sounds incredibly adventurous. So,
Well, it was adventurous, but I kind of did it by accident. It was back in 1994, and I'd never actually heard of whitewater rafting. So I was single at the time, and I needed to go on holiday on my own because all my friends were parts of couples and so on and so forth. And I thought, oh, well, I could do a walking holiday or a sailing holiday, something like that. And then I just opened a magazine one day and saw this, rafting the Zambezi, the River of the Gods, and thought, oh, that sounds like fun. So I signed up without actually realizing. I mean, in 1994, whitewater rafting wasn't really a thing. It wasn't something I'd ever heard of. So I imagined that I was going for a float down the river looking at wildlife on a barn door, whereas actually what I found out I was doing was tackling some of the biggest whitewater in the world.
I read that it was
crocodile infested river. So yes,
yeah,
it
I
was a
read
bit
that
of a surprise.
it was level
Yeah,
5. I read. I'm like, oh my God,
exactly.
that's like
Yeah,
pretty
well, like level
severe.
6 is unrunnable,
Yeah,
so
I
it's
mean,
kind of the biggest rapids you can possibly run,
so
really. So
okay, so
yes.
let's just talk about that for a bit. So were you wearing a helmet and a little life vest? I mean,
Yes, yes, I mean the rafts themselves are fairly stable. You run
okay.
the rivers like that in sort of big rubber rafts which
So
are
you
self-bailing, so the water that sort of splashes in does kind of bail out.
so
But
you
for
didn't fall in at any
safety,
point.
oh, I did fall in. I did fall in, and it was the most terrifying experience of my life, I think, because there was one rapid called Open Season, which they always give them, sort of quite disconcerting names. And it was such a big, horrible rapid that we had to scout it before we actually ran down it.
Oof.
And our guide actually said, and I quote, "You don't want to fall in here." It was a great big recirculating part of the river, and as we went down it, we literally it just pulled my side of the raft underwater and sucked me off
Oh my God.
the boat. And the next thing I knew, I was underwater, and basically in white water, I mean, you simply cannot swim. It's so aerated, there's nothing to
Mhm.
push against, so you just have to kind of stay under there until the river decides that you're going to pop out. So I was under
Wow.
the water thinking, I remember Andy saying that you really don't want to swim here. but I just had to remember what we've been trained to do, which was to poke your feet out the front, so that if you did hit a rock, it's kind of your feet that hit first. Cross your hands so that, you know,
Right.
cross your hands over your chest like this so that you don't get caught up on any rocks. And then you just have to wait for the high buoyancy life jacket to shoot you out and your colleagues to pull you back in the boat.
Yeah.
So
No, that's
I'm
way.
still here to tell the tale, but it was a terrifying experience, I have to
Yeah.
say, because you have no control in that situation. You have no control, and I'm not
Right.
overly keen on being underwater. I'm the world's worst water sports person
I mean,
because I'm not very keen on being submerged.
yeah, that's very brave. And I mean, it's funny you say you sort of went on it by accident, because I feel like in your book you're often saying we bought this car, you know, the caravan, by accident, and we did this by accident.
Well, it is true. I have a bit of an attitude to life that is, what's the worst that can happen? And usually it's not as bad as you think. I'd say with the
Right.
Zambezi, it was perhaps a little bit different, because what's the worst that can happen in that situation was the danger of
Well,
death. But in most situations, you know, things are never as bad as you
right,
think they could
right.
turn out. And I have a bit of a ready, fire, aim approach to life, in that, you know, I just like to get the most out of life. And
Wh-
you know, in general, it's, you know, if anything happens, you can usually sort it out. So
Yes,
I just believe in living life to the full.
yes. I mean, I was reading that too, where you said you didn't just want a little slice of cake every. I don't know how you put it, but yeah, I thought that's true. Why, you know, work your whole year and get 2 little weeks off to
Well,
actually
that's it. It's, yeah.
adventure? Yeah.
No,
So
indeed. I got tired of living life in thin slices, I think,
yes,
is what you're saying,
yes,
because that's the thing. Travel is my passion. I absolutely love seeing the world, meeting new people, seeing different cultures, finding out different ways of living life. And it's something you can never really immerse yourself into when you only have 2 weeks holiday from
sure,
work. You know, you can go and see places, but you can never immerse yourself in the same way as you could if you spent a month in a country, or 3 months, or
right.
if, you know, I mean, it's never something that I've managed to do yet, but if you were able to live and work in a country, then, you know, that's the best way altogether of
So
understanding the culture and immersing yourself in
okay,
something completely different.
so now you're doing that. I mean, now you've got this home on wheels,
Indeed,
and off you
yes.
go. And I know this. I know you've written several books about it, right? This is just year one, and I think you've got up to year four.
We've got a little bit beyond that now.
Okay,
We've
how?
actually we set off in 2016 in the caravan that we bought accidentally. We intended to do a 3-year trip. So we're 8 years in and haven't quite stopped yet. So I've written 5 books about the caravan adventures.
Hmm.
One book about a season we spent skiing, which is another of our passions. And then the book I'm just finishing and is due to be released in April, late this month,
Okay,
is about how we bought and built, again, not quite accidentally with the truck, but we did make an impulse purchase off the internet of a 24.5 ton 6-wheel truck. Which is where I am now, and we converted it into our new home on wheels. The plan was to drive to Mongolia, but unfortunately
wow.
circumstances put paid to that for the moment,
And
but it's something that we'll do at one point.
this is the beast.
This is the beast, yes, indeed. Yeah, she's a great big bull-nosed army truck, a Volvo N10, if anybody knows what that is.
No, you might have to send a photo, and I'll put it up with this
I
so
shall
everyone can
definitely send a
see. Yes,
photo.
I'm
She's a
curious
very
too.
magnificent truck. I mean, that's, but again, partly why we bought her on impulse from the internet, because we just fell in love. We thought, you know, she is too big, she's too heavy, but, you know, we'll have fun with her. So we
Hmm.
thought, why not? So a lot of
So
people bought lockdown puppies. We bought a lockdown truck.
how many different
Mm.
countries have you been to now? Are you keeping track?
Yes, I mean, between us, I think Mark and I have visited over 50 countries. But since we, as I say, travel was always our passion. But since we started touring in the caravan or in the beast, I think we've been to about 20 countries. We've visited most of Europe. As I say, at the
Hmm.
moment, it's not really possible to go to Mongolia because our route there was through Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia, which
Yes.
is kind of not really on the cards at the moment. But
No.
yeah, we've toured most of Europe now. We've been down in the Balkans. And then this year we plan to go up to the Baltics to Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia. So yeah, we've got around and about, and you know, we do manage to spend, you know, at least a good few weeks in each country. We travel
Mm.
slowly. Certainly in the Beast, we have no choice because her top speed is 45 miles an hour. So, you know, there's no chance of racing past everything.
Right.
So, you know, we tend to get somewhere and stay for a while and see
Well,
what there is.
what's
Mm.
your favorite place been so far? Do you have a favorite?
Well, everywhere is different, and it's sometimes difficult to say what's your favourite, and it depends what you like. I mean, I adore skiing, so I mean, I absolutely adore where we go skiing, which is Monte Rosa in northern Italy. You know, it's a very quiet, little known resort, to be honest.
Hmm.
So often it feels like it's your own personal ski resort. But I think of all the countries that I've visited, certainly in Europe, I think Romania is my favourite. And
Okay.
that's partly because it was just so completely unexpected. I mean, we decided, I mean, curiously, again, you know, this is the ready, fire, aim aspect of our lives. And we actually set off to go to Spain in our third year, I think, of travels. But when we set off, there was an unprecedented heat wave. It was in 2018, and we heard that the temperatures, even in sort of May and June time, were over 50 degrees.
Oof.
And particularly, I'm not good with heat, and particularly for the dogs, you know, that just
Hmm.
sounded like torment. So we actually just decided to turn left and go to Romania instead, as you do. But so many people said, "Oh my goodness, you know, you're not going to Romania. You're going to get eaten by bears. You know, you're going to be chased by wild dogs, and then there's the vampires, and you know, you'll be kidnapped by gypsies." And you know, it was just going to be terrible. I mean, so, to the point,
Well,
you know, that we thought, "Oh gosh, you know, should
well,
we really be going here?" But then we thought, you know, the great thing about the way we travel is that we're on wheels, and if we don't like it, we can always turn around and go somewhere else. That's always an option. But what we
well.
found in Romania was just, you know, it was the most spectacular landscapes, such a rich history. I mean, there's over 20 UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Romania,
Wow.
including the Danube Delta, which is like a natural sort of, you know, it's a UNESCO site because of the
Uh-huh.
nature. Many of the others are fortified churches, beautiful painted monasteries, castles. Obviously, Dracula was born in Romania, and in fact, the picture behind me there
Yes.
that you can just see
A
is the clock
tower.
tower in Sigishwara, which is where Dracula was born, and we actually bought that picture in Dracula's birthplace. So yeah, Romania I would recommend to anybody.
Wow. So, okay.
Mm.
And as you're saying, I mean, some of these adventures might get a little bit scary and hairy and dangerous. Do you have any sort of plan in place for if something is going to happen?
Well, we carry recovery equipment. I mean, you
Uh-huh.
have to be self-reliant. I mean, if you're traveling, I mean, although Romania is in the European Union, I mean, obviously the infrastructure in some of these places, I mean, Romania has improved a lot. We went back there last year,
Hmm.
and the roads had improved immeasurably. I mean, when we went in 2018, you know, many of the roads, we actually drove across a cornfield with the caravan and up a footpath because
Right.
it was marked as a road on the map. But you know, that has improved markedly, but nevertheless, you know, they're not quite the same as Western Europe. So you have to be self-reliant, and if things
Hmm.
happen, you have to be able to get yourself out of trouble. I mean, for example, with the truck we carry recovery equipment, so we've got ropes and sand ladders, so if we got stuck in mud or sand, we can
Right.
recover ourselves. um, we have,
Oof.
I mean, we've got electric bikes, so you know, if we break down somewhere remote,
And
we've
go and
got
get
an
help.
ability to transport
Yeah.
ourselves to get help. And I mean, curiously, yeah, I mean, I know we've been putting off this meeting for weeks on end, because the UK is one of the poorest places for internet,
Internet.
and yeah, we sort of struggle sometimes to get a good connection here, whereas in Romania, even up the top of a mountain, we had 5G.
Wow. Wow.
So, I mean, to be honest, we often, when we go abroad, we buy a local SIM card.
Right.
So, you know, the international emergency numbers work wherever you are. It's very easy now with apps such as What Three Words, you know, to pinpoint your exact location
That's
if
true.
you have a problem. So, you know, as I say, you know, as I'm very fond of saying, there's always a solution.
Mm.
So,
Well,
yeah, we
wow,
just kind of deal
I
with it.
admire your adventurous spirit because I don't think
Mm.
everyone could live like you were living. I mean, it's
Mm.
quite bold.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't really think of it as bold because to me
right.
it is obviously
Just who
normal.
you are. Yeah,
But yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I couldn't imagine living a quiet life,
yeah.
you know, sort of
Well, I
baking
mean, it's
buns or whatever.
how
So,
lovely that you've met someone who feels the same,
mm.
and then you have this, travel partner who, I mean, that's wonderful.
I feel so lucky because we
Mm,
meet so many people who say, you know, I would love to do what you're doing, but my wife or my husband doesn't feel the same
exactly.
way. And I think, you know, it's so important to live a lifestyle like this. I mean, you have to both be committed to it. I mean, there are moments of great pleasure. I mean, you know, the rewards of the lifestyle are just phenomenal. You know, when we have big barn doors at the back of the beast and we can fling that open if we're staying on a beach or in the mountains or something. But things can go wrong and you are living in a very, very small space. I mean,
Hmm.
even the caravan, the beast is a similar size interior to the caravan. It's 7 meters by 2.5 meters.
Right.
So if you don't get on or you
And
have a row, there's nowhere to go and hide.
right, and
So,
then you have
you know,
four
it is
dogs
imperative. Exactly. They are very
just
small
thrown into the
dogs, but
mix.
yeah, they're very small dogs and they're very well behaved. As I say, I'm very pleased with them at the moment
Yeah,
because they've
yeah.
been very, very quiet and well behaved.
Wow.
So, yeah.
All
But
right. And
no, certainly the lifestyle is not for everybody.
no. So
Mm.
I was going to ask you more about the writing. So obviously you're writing while you're traveling, right? I mean, you're just
Indeed,
so are
yes.
you writing in the beast? Are you writing within the beast, or do you have to go find a coffee shop to go and sit at, or where do you like to
No,
write?
no, I tend to I write wherever I am. I write on deck chairs sitting outside the beast. I write when I'm sitting up in bed in the morning. I find that's a very nice time for me to write, you know, sort of
Yeah.
when we're just relaxing. I make myself a coffee and just sit up in bed while all the dogs are snoozing. And
Hmm.
I find that quite a creative time because I often get ideas at 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, last night I had to
Hmm.
get up and write something down in the wee small hours because I had an inspiration. But yeah, I just kind of write when I have time, sort of in between the travels.
Yeah.
I mean, at the moment we're in the UK, so we're doing a lot of jobs, but usually when we're traveling, our only imperative in the day is really to, you know, have a look at what we're having a look at that day or taking the dogs for
Hmm.
a walk. So I can usually find time to write, but I most certainly don't have a routine. People say, do you have a writing
Right.
routine? It's kind of, no, not really. I
Yeah.
write on a laptop, on my lap, wherever I happen to be.
And then are you self-publishing?
I do self-publish, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I
So
tried years ago, you know, the sort of horrendous process of submitting
yeah.
manuscripts to literary agents
Yeah.
and, you know, getting so many rejection letters that I could have papered my house with them. But actually, since self-publishing came along, it's something I really enjoy. I really enjoy having control of the process.
Right.
So I get my own covers designed, and I've even taken the great leap into formatting my own books now,
Oh, very
which
good.
is the first time. The first 6 books I had professionally formatted, but there's always, 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 no matter how carefully you edit or proofread, there's always those sneaky little typos that
Yeah,
make their way through. You
indeed.
have to have you have to admire their persistence, but they're always there. So, I mean, at least with formatting myself, I can now address that if if I need to.
Yeah,
So yes.
because you can go in and
Mm.
fix it still even afterwards.
Absolutely. No,
Right. That is
absolutely.
nice to
So
have
that's
that control.
great.
I
Yeah,
agree.
it is. Yes.
And
Yeah.
how long does it take you, like this one that we're talking about, the Adventure Caravanning with Dogs Year One? How long did that take you to write?
It's difficult to say because how it came about, I mean, I've always loved writing. I've always written. I've written newsletters, postcards. I used to write long and
Hmm.
involved letters to people from my holidays. So, I mean, writing is just something that I've always done, and I've always found outlets to do it. And when we started traveling, people, friends, for example, were very interested not only in our travels, but how we did it, how we fund ourselves, because we
Uh-huh.
retired when we were 50.
Hmm.
And obviously, you know, people are interested, like, well, you know, you haven't won the lottery or had a windfall, so how do you do it? So I started up a blog, and the book actually came from the blog because
Okay.
people enjoyed, you know, people who read it enjoyed my stories. And in fact, it was a lady called Nicola who I have now met.
Okay.
It took about sort of 6 years before I actually met her in person, but she said, "Oh, you should write a book. No one writes like you." And actually, I then sort of shaped up the blogs from our first year of travel into the first book. So I
Okay.
mean, it's difficult to say how long it took to write because I was just writing it as blog posts. But I am a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to writing. So I mean, it can take me weeks at a time to write a single blog post. So I
Hmm.
mean, most of the chapters are kind of a blog post. So you know, it is difficult to say, but yeah, I mean, I probably published the book about 2 years after I wrote all the posts.
Okay.
So it, you know, it took some time to, you know, like cobble it all together into a sort of functioning manuscript.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And then,
it's
I mean,
difficult
two
to
years is
say.
not a bad length. I think that's,
No, oh, I mean, some people take decades. So I
yeah,
mean, in some
yeah,
ways, it is actually
yeah.
it's actually very quick.
And then,
Yeah.
what is one of your favorite memoirs or even travel memoirs? Like, who do you enjoy
Oh, wait.
reading?
Oh well, I mean, I read almost nothing but memoirs,
Yeah.
and I mean, my favourite genre, which is what I hope people take from what I write, is just comic travel memoirs. So I mean, if I can learn something and have a laugh while I'm
Hmm.
reading, that's just my absolute favourite thing. So I mean, I've loved things like Tony Hawk's Round Island with a Fridge. I mean, I just love the absolute madness of thinking that you can hitchhike around Ireland carrying a fridge, which, as Tony Hawk says, Ireland is the only place in the world where you could like stand by the side of a road with a fridge next to you, and people wouldn't see it as something that was going to hinder your chances of getting a lift.
Oh my
So
God.
that kind of thing just really appeals to me. I just like quirky, you know, sort of
That is very
daft
out there.
ideas.
Okay, I have to
Yeah.
know, how big is this fridge more? What sort of size fridge are we speaking about here?
Well, I think Tony made life easy for himself, so he went just with kind of a 50-litre countertop fridge. But he said he got the idea right. I mean, as many of the best ideas come from, it was kind of a rather drunken evening where he relayed a story that he'd been in Ireland and seen someone with a full-size fridge standing at the side of the road hitchhiking a lift. So then I think his friend dared him to hitchhike around Ireland with a fridge.
That's
But as I
hilarious.
say, his was just you know, kind of the size of a very large box. But nevertheless,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure if you stood on the edge of the M25 or something in London, no one would pick you up.
Oh, I doubt
Uh,
it. Okay, that's great.
mm,
And then I was wondering if you would maybe want to read us a little part from one of your books, or hopefully from this Adventure
yes,
Caravanning with Dogs Year One. Yeah.
yeah, certainly, I can
All right,
do
I'll put
that.
you on.
Um,
Let me put you
yeah.
on speaker view. Are you ready? Then I'll put you on here.
Yeah, that's great. I'm ready
All
when
right.
you are.
Here we go. There you go.
This is the beginning of my first book, and it's a chapter called Deceptive Bends. I'm not even going to look. I screamed as my husband Mark hugged the caravan as far as he could into the high stone wall to our left, and I hugged Kai, my little dog, wrapping my fingers tightly in his fur. We'd advanced our 40-foot caravan van combo cautiously into the narrow blind corner at a snail's pace. This was fortunate, as we didn't see the oncoming wide load until it was too late. He hove into view as he swung recklessly around the corner at about 40 miles an hour. It was halfway across the centre line on the wrong side of the road. We both closed our eyes and tensed. What could we do other than wait for the inevitable? It would be a near head-on impact, and I was praying Mark would survive. It wouldn't be so bad if we were at least both able to work out what to do once the entire right-hand side of the van and caravan had been ripped off. To this day, neither of us knows how the truck missed us. It could only have been by millimetres, yet the nature of the load carried by the oncoming HGV was the most ironic thing about the whole incident. It would have been typical of our luck, and just too ridiculous to have been taken out by a static caravan. It was the first day of living the dream. We'd gone from first-timers to full-timers in only a month. We'd accidentally bought a caravan, and within a day and a couple of bottles of celebratory champagne had made the perfectly sensible progression from having a couple of holidays in her each year to getting rid of everything that we owned, renting out our apartment and touring in her full-time. After a practice run of a week, this near miss with a static almost spelled a very early end to the dream. We'd been on tour for less than half an hour and had made it only a couple of miles up the road from where we had collected our caravan. Departure day had not gone to plan. Amid the frantic exit clean and final packing, we'd been late getting away. By the time we picked up the caravan, it was the height of the Friday evening rush hour. We had another near miss on the motorway. A woman did an emergency stop directly in front of us to allow a lorry to merge in from the slip road. Then, making the sharp turns required to get onto our site, we squared off our jockey wheel, the small retractable wheel at the front of the caravan. Unsurprisingly, by the time we'd pitched, we were just a little tense. We'd arrived on site with no food or fundamentals like wine. We really needed wine. We hadn't yet learnt to check ahead whether the site had an electrical hookup and a shower block, so we found ourselves in the middle of a field with no facilities and reliant on our solar panel for power. We found a Chinese takeaway nearby, and just after dinner, which we finally ate at 10 p.m, we christened our pristine new shower with our 4 dogs. Disconcerted by their change of circumstance, they had decided to add to the general air of relaxation by barking incessantly before all rolling in fox poo when they went out for their last pee. Lani, our little black girl, had clumps of it stuck in her collar. Fellow dog owners will agree that there are few smells more persistent and revolting than fox poo. The minty shower gel we used to bathe our pooches did little more than disguise the stench. So here we were, sitting in a caravan that reeked of fox poo, overlaid with minty shower gel and a hint of Chinese food. I was so tired and stressed after the trials of the day that I just wanted to curl into the fetal position and weep uncontrollably. It was not how I expected to feel on the first day of living the dream.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I gotta say, other than the fox poo, which doesn't sound great, it sounds like a. It's. I mean, it is such an adventure. It's just like every day becomes an adventure.
Well, it does. It's one thing I
Right?
love about the lifestyle. I mean, there's no routine. I mean, again, it's
Yeah.
not something everyone could cope with, but sometimes people say, oh, what is your plan? Or where are you staying tonight?
No
And I
plan.
can honestly say, I don't know. I don't always know where I'll be staying that night. You know, it depends how we feel. As I say, you know, the biggest sort of diversion from our plan was heading to Spain and turning left to go to Romania. So yeah, you just never know. But I love that. I love
Yes,
change. I
because,
embrace change.
and I think it makes you feel alive, like you were saying.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely. No,
near life experience every
absolutely.
day.
Exactly that. Yes.
And I mean, it is pretty ironic that, you know, this you're almost crashing into into a caravan,
Well, I
right,
mean,
right from the word go.
yeah,
It's like, oh, what's the
yeah.
universe saying right here?
No, I know.
Yeah.
It was just the most ironic thing. I thought being taken out by a caravan, a static caravan, would just be too embarrassing for words. But anyway, we're here and we can tell the tale.
All
But
right.
no, it
Well,
was a pretty scary experience. Yeah.
so where are you off to next?
We're heading just at the beginning of May, we're heading up to the Baltic, so we're
Oh,
going to
that's
cross
right.
into France and drive up to Germany, and then take a ferry over into the Baltics. So yeah, we planned 3 months, which is the maximum amount of time we can spend there. We're going to spend 3 months
Oh,
exploring up there, so
because
it looks
because
wonderful.
you're on British passports, obviously, right?
Yes, that's right.
Right.
So, yeah, unfortunately, post-Brexit,
Limited.
our freedom of
Yeah.
movement has been taken away, so that we
Um,
can only spend a maximum of 3 months in every 6 in the entire Schengen area, which now
yeah.
comprises 29 countries. So, yeah, it's limited our options somewhat. But as I
Yeah.
say, there's always a solution. So, for example, you can always kind of hop out into non-Schengen countries such as Turkey or Morocco if you're
Hmm.
down in Spain.
Hmm.
So there's always a solution.
Right.
So
And
mm.
how are your languages? How many languages do you have?
I speak French reasonably well. I speak Italian and a little bit of German. I mean,
Okay.
when we travel, we do always try to learn at least some fundamentals like please and thank you, because people do appreciate your trying in their
Yeah.
language. So, we did manage to learn a little bit of Albanian when we were down there. Polish defeated me, but then even the Poles tell me that Polish is almost impossible
And
to
did
learn.
are most places people
Mm.
speak English?
It depends where you go, really. I
Right.
mean, there does seem to be this myth that most of Europe speaks English. I mean, certainly in the cities or in touristy spots, then people do speak English, or German is quite commonplace because the Germans are great travellers as well.
Okay.
But no, I mean, if you get even into, say, rural France or, sort of other places, then you'll find that English is not widely spoken.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, in Romania, for example, which is a very forward-thinking country, as I said, most of the young people speak English. I mean,
Oh,
I found them, very inspiring, very engaged, and very with it, so we found most young people would speak English. So it just kind of depends where you go. But I find generally, I mean, curiously, for example, in Albania, they speak Italian because when they had the dictator Enver Hoxha in charge, people, although they had kind of propaganda on the TV from him, they could get Italian TV channels. So a number of people in Albania speak Italian. So,
hmm.
it surprised me that I was able to converse quite happily
Right.
with people who spoke only Albanian and no English, but I could get by in Italian. So sometimes it is
Yeah.
surprising how certain languages enable you to get by in different
Yeah. I
places.
mean, I'm in Portugal, and most of the people here can speak
Mm.
3 or 4 languages. I mean, it's
Yes,
amazing. It's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
No, it is
Great.
incredible. No, it is incredible. I mean, English people, I think we are, I mean, I'm making a vast generalization here, but I think we are a little bit lazy
Yeah.
because you just kind of expect people to speak English. I mean, English is very widely spoken because people
Right.
get American TV. And I mean, in Albania, we visited a vet and he'd learned English himself solely by watching American television
Yeah.
programs. And I thought
Yeah.
it was amazing. I mean, he was absolutely fluent, and I just thought that was absolutely incredible.
And
But
and he probably had the
yeah,
American accent as well, right?
he did.
Yeah.
That's always the comical thing, when you sort of hear people and they speak with an American
Yeah.
accent.
Yeah.
But,
That's very
I mean, English is clearly an official international language. It's the language of air traffic
yeah.
control, of science, and so many
Right.
other things. So we are very fortunate as English speakers. But, I do think well, I quite like to be respectful to other
Yes,
countries and
I
cultures
agree.
as well. And I think even if you can just speak a couple of words, it does make a
I
difference.
think so.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Mm.
Well, I think that your life sounds wonderful. I mean,
Oh, you're
uh,
very kind. Thank you.
anyway, thank you so
Mm.
much for talking with me today, and I really enjoyed that. And I good luck with
Yes.
your next book and with the launch of that.
Thank you
And
very
and
much.
please
Yes.
please do send me a picture of the beast, and I'll
I
put it
most
on
certainly
here.
shall.
And then can I just put your website? Do you have a website or Instagram or any information
Yes,
you would like
yes.
me to put underneath here so that people can contact you and find out about your books and
Yeah, no problem at all. I have, I've just launched my author website, so that's jacquelinelambert.co.uk. But I do
okay,
also still have the travel blog, which is worldwidewalkies.com. So I can send you the details, and if anybody
perfect.
wants to
We'll put them
contact
here.
me through
Okay,
those, that's
perfect.
absolutely fine.
All right. Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Yeah, oh, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you.
And
Thank
you
you so
too.
much.
I hope it stops raining.
Yeah,
So
fingers
you can get
crossed. It was
out.
sunny this morning. Yeah, well, I missed my walk, so
Ah,
fingers crossed it will be
all
lovely this
right.
afternoon.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you
Bye.
very much.
You're
All right,
welcome.
bye-bye
Bye.
now.